On today's edition of Marriage Matters with McCracken, I want to share with you an article by James Michael Sama. Now, I don't know a lot about James Michael Sama. He's a relationship and personal development coach, but he wrote this great article called 5 Lessons Men Need to Learn About Women. And from what I've read and from what I've experienced and from what I've heard, this article is pretty much right on. So he says, sure, we've all met some women who seem to be more complicated than Chinese algebra. Even the famous Oscar Wilde remarked, women are meant to be loved, not understood. But I do think as men, we overcomplicate women because we expect them to be just like us. It's natural for anyone to project their own qualities onto others and become confused when they don't fit the mold. But once we step outside of ourselves and see people as they are and not as we are, our vision becomes clearer. So here's lesson number 1. It doesn't matter what you say, it matters how she feels. A woman's honesty to herself is unparalleled because her self-esteem is rooted where it should be in herself. You can call her beautiful or sexy or gorgeous every single day, but if she doesn't feel it, it won't get through to her. You need to make her feel all of these things and more. In fact, what you don't say usually matters more than what you do say. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. Lesson number 2, you work on logic, generally speaking, and she, generally speaking, works on emotion. This is not to say that women are illogical or don't use logic in everyday situations. And it's not to say that men can't feel emotions. But often her thoughts and ideas are better articulated than her male counterparts. The point I'm trying to make here is that a woman's emotions will influence her actions more than a man's would for him. As men, society teaches us to keep our feelings hidden so we don't acknowledge them as much and therefore don't act on them as women do. It's always been seen as a negative for a man to be in touch with his feminine side. But when people say this, they're typically referring to someone who's more in touch with his own emotions. Women will naturally gravitate closer to men like this because they feel they will be better understood. And if you're a woman listening to this, this also means if you want your man to know you feel something, you need to tell him. He may not be able to read it on his own. And having to tell him doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. In fact, telling him and him listening means he does love you. Thirdly, women don't tend to compartmentalize like men do. Meaning, if a man has a bad day at work, he can come home, give his woman a kiss, pour himself a drink, and usually unwind, blocking out the stress until the next day, assuming his work doesn't come home with him. If a woman has a bad day, it will affect her mood and her interactions. This is exactly the time when men need to shut up and not tell her to get over it or that it's no big deal, because these things stay fresh in her mind. Be understanding, be comforting, and she will feel better. Don't try to fix it or fix her. Just listen and accept her and empathize with her problem. Number 4, what women want isn't that complicated. It's always a mystery to many people what women want in a relationship, but is it really? Believe it or not, gentlemen, women are humans too. This means they crave the same things you do deep down, but probably won't admit. They want to be loved, respected, trusted, and adored. They want you to listen, at least make an attempt to understand, and help where you can when asked. They're not nearly as complicated as you think, so don't make it worse than it is. Number 5, She's probably more afraid of rejection than you are. And James Michael Sama says, I know, man, trust me, I've been rejected probably more than the average guy. I know how much it sucks and how hard it is to pull all of that risk, to put all of that risk on the table when approaching a woman. But a woman's desire is to be desired. Every societal norm, whether you agree with it or not, shows her that she is to be pursued. Are you waiting for her to make the first move? Stop. Can you imagine the blow to self-esteem when you're the object of desire being made to feel undesirable? Like anything in life, we tend to avoid or be intimidated by what we don't understand, but we can choose to observe, learn, and eliminate the hesitation. So don't think so much about what you've said. Think more about how she feels. You work more on logic and she does emotions, so try to be more in touch with your emotions and share in a respectful way your emotions. Women don't compartmentalize. Everything overlaps. Everything's connected. They can't put things in neat little compartments that don't touch. Be aware of that. Women just want to be loved and respected, just like you do. And she's more afraid of rejection than you are. So work at pursuing, be intentional about telling her and showing her how much you adore her and accept her and appreciate her and think she's beautiful and wonderful and that she's the only one for you forever.